Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti. My guest this evening is Eric Hammerling, who's the Executive Director of the Connecticut Forest and Park Association. Hi, buddy.
Hey,
how are you?
Great to see you. Oh,
welcome.
My gosh. What a pleasure to be here.
It's been a while.
It has been.
It has been.
Thanks for having me back.
Thanks for coming back. First question, what's new?
All right, what's new?
There's a lot new.
Well, right now, I mean, this is the time that we're in the last 10 days of the legislative session.
Yes.
And at the Connecticut Forest and Park Association, I'm not just the executive director, I'm also our policy director. So spending a lot of time at the Capitol trying to make sure that all of those important funding sources and laws that support forest parks and trails are going to be good ones.
Nice.
That's not the easiest thing to do because there are
not.
so many things on the agenda, and it's been an odd year because there's been a lot of federal funding available, and we actually, as a state, have done a pretty good job. There's some surplus funding, and you would think with additional funding available, it would be easier to fund the types of things that we would like to see more of.
Yeah.
But there's actually been more fighting now that there is more funding. And so we're always trying to make sure that things come out okay in the wash.
Absolutely. And how are things coming out in the wash so far?
So far, okay. I would say that a few bits of good news and some areas where there is room for improvement.
All right.
Some good news is that one of our favorite programs that we've had to really fight for in the past seems to be in good shape this year, and that's the Passport to the Parks program.
That's right.
The Passport to the Parks started in 2018 after, we really lobbied hard for that bill. And what it basically does is it helps to raise money to support state park operations. Yeah. And we all pay, when we register our vehicles, a $5 per year fee per vehicle. And that adds up to about $20 million that helps to support the park system. And at the same time, and this is I think the best part of the Passport, everyone gets to get into state parks for free. So no longer do you need to pay at the gates to get in, and it really opens up the state parks for everybody. And in fact, this last year, there were more people who visited state parks than ever before. Over 13 million people got out to state parks. So it's been very successful, and it's an important program, and it looks like, and I never want to say it's definite until I see it in black and white, but it looks like the Passport to the Parks is going to survive this session and remain intact and continue to do good things for the parks.
Absolutely.
However, there is, I know, it's like you have the two sides of parks. You want to make sure that you're able to operate them, but then there are about 1,000 buildings that are on our 110 state parks and state forest lands that are there for various public purposes. And if you were a young family going to a state park, for example, the thing you want to make sure is in good working condition is the bathrooms.
Absolutely.
And those are the types of things that just get run down over time. And we're really pleased that Governor Lamont proposed on Valentine's Day at Sherwood Island a big increase in support for state park infrastructure. So paying for the bathhouses and some of the older buildings that are starting to wear down, and to make a number of different improvements like ramps and other ways of making buildings more accessible to the public. And unfortunately, there was a cut proposed in the legislature a couple weeks ago from what looked like it was going to be a really nice increase of $55 million for state park infrastructure. They cut it, or proposed a cut of $12.5 million in the legislature's budget. And we're hoping that that gets worked out and they're able to support the full amount, because there is over a $150 million backlog of important projects that need to happen. So an example of that is at Rocky Neck.
Yeah.
You've been to that, amazing CCC pavilion
Yep.
and structure. It's such a cool place.
It is.
Right? You go inside and you see all these wood pillars that go back to the 1930s. They took, a pillar from each of the state parks and forests at the time, and they've labeled them, and they've got this really cool structure, but it was built in the 1930s,
right.
and it would take, they say, about $20 million, or actually, I think it's actually $30 million to do all of the repairs that are required just at Rocky Neck alone.
Okay.
And so, think about across an entire state park system, that's an awful lot of work that needs to happen. So
Absolutely.
we want to make sure that that money is restored to as close as what the governor proposed as possible, so that we can have safer, more accessible state parks.
Absolutely.
And then there are always some random things that pop up along the way. Like one thing that we're concerned about is there was a proposal at Housatonic Meadows State Park in Sharon, Connecticut. There was a proposal to take not a huge amount of land, about half an acre of that state park, and sell it to a next door neighbor, without any really good description of what's the public benefit of doing this, and how will that land be used.
Right.
Public lands to us are really important, and I think to a lot of people as well, because really, if you think about it, public lands are owned by all of us.
Right.
So before public lands are sold without any sort of restriction on how they are used, or any definition of the public benefit, I think we should be skeptical. So that's one of the things that we hope will not make it through this legislative session, but it's potentially going to move. So we shall see. And then the last thing is also, a little bit of good news. We're always advocating for funding for, the Recreational Trails and Greenways program, because there's an awful lot of people who get outdoors on trails. And over the last few years, especially during the pandemic, the usage of recreational trails is up tremendously.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that there is funding to do all of the improvements necessary to make sure that people have access to trails. And there's also some funding for open space conservation that looks like it's going to be included in the budget. So there are some really good signs of some investments. We hope that state parks will come out whole with the state park infrastructure. But overall, some really good stuff. I should mention, Pete, there are two things that we were hoping would get dealt with this year, but it might fall into a next year or future category, and we're going to keep on pushing on these.
All right.
So one of them is, when you think about these trails, especially longer trails, they usually cross a lot of different types of land ownerships, state land, municipal land, water company land, even private land.
Right.
And to keep those trails connected takes a lot of management.
Right.
But especially those pieces that go through private land, they're also the ones that are most vulnerable for a landowner to say, either, I'm not sure I want a trail on my property anymore, which landowners always have the right to do, or you have a new landowner and they're like, wait, there's a trail on my property? I'm not sure, So we've been trying to find some incentives for landowners to make them want to have a trail on their property and keep these long trails connected. Right. And there was a bill that we had some hopes for we actually had a public hearing early in the session, and it would have given a tax benefit to a landowner who made a long-term commitment to their trail. And that unfortunately didn't make it through the process.
Oh, no.
So we're going to come back on incentives like that. And we also have been advocating for the last couple of years for some policies around resilient forests that we think should be at the top of the agenda for Connecticut. Forests are really important. They provide a lot of benefits to us.
Absolutely.
And we have to invest in them and have policies that support healthy forests. So there were some proposals that were made that never made it into legislation, but we think in 2023 we'll be coming back at that with a lot of momentum. So lots of things.
Absolutely.
Generally some good stuff. A few things that we're just hoping in the last 10 days don't go a little haywire.
Yeah, right, exactly. I was actually in Brantford the other day, coming home from an event. My mom and I came up Route 1. The amount of people that were on the trail at Hammerling, the Greenway Trail, at like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. Oh my God, holy cow.
Right? Isn't
Talk
that
about
amazing?
Utilization.
Oh, absolutely. And those trails bring so many people to not just state parks, but to the communities where those parks
Absolutely.
are. So, I mean, I would say that, investing in trails that connect communities like that Shoreline Greenway Trail really is a way to invest in people's good health. Because what people are out there
Exactly.
walking, biking, taking their dogs out, et cetera. And also, there are the economic benefits that the towns experience because more people are coming. That's one of those attractions that people will come. They'll park somewhere. They'll spend some time on the trail, and they'll be like, I'd love to, get some ice cream or some, let's stop for a beer, or, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
All of that helps to support local communities. So we think these are important investments for a lot of reasons. But yeah, like the experience that you saw with that trail, that's pretty typical. More and more people are even
the weather
living.
gets nice.
Right, the weather gets nice. And that's the thing about the spring. It's always full of hope. It's full of people saying, oh yeah, I've been indoors all winter. I want to get back outside again.
Let's get out.
You're going to see that continue to grow, and that's exciting.
Now, what about how did the Connecticut Forest and Park Association handle the pandemic, when it's first started to where we are now?
Well, I'd have to say there's some good news around that because so much of our work is focused on making sure that people get outdoors. Even when all sorts of things indoors closed during the pandemic, but the outdoors never closed.
No.
And really, over the last 2.5 years, you have seen more and more people saying, you know what, it's really important to get outdoors. First of all, like during the pandemic, it was, I'm feeling a little stir crazy being indoors. I need to do something.
Exactly.
But then when people were getting outdoors, they said, you know what, I actually feel calmer when I'm spending some time in nature. I feel healthier. I feel less depressed. Like there are all these things about getting outdoors that provided a really important support for people's quality of life. So we have done well in that a lot of the work that we support has continued on and even increased in terms of people using the outdoors. We had actually a number of people over the last couple of years join our organization solely because they said, you know what, we have been using these trails for years. We never really thought about how important they were to our lives. Now we know. And so it's comforting to hear that. We hope that support, not just for CFPA, but for the importance of the outdoors will continue to grow.
Absolutely. Eric, would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Be happy to.
All right, we'll be right back.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Community TV, your neighborhood TV.
Publicly funded and a reliable partner for cable companies nationwide. It provides transparent coverage of local and state government, education, and public programming.
A digital town green that can be watched anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
Watch us on today's high-tech distribution methods.
Community TV in Connecticut.
Local,
unfiltered,
reliable, and yours.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Eric Hammerling, who's the Executive Director of the Connecticut Forest and Park Association. Eric, welcome back.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. All right, so we talked about CFPA and the organization in the first segment. Let's talk about the segment. I guess you guys have something really cool coming up in June.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
The first weekend in June every year is Trails Day. Now, it seems a little odd that it's a weekend. We call it Trails Day. If you can get past that cognitive dissonance, I just want you to know that there's actually National Trails Day celebrated throughout the country, but the largest Trails Day celebration anywhere in the nation takes place right here in Connecticut. And we're very proud at CFPA that we've been helping to coordinate Trails Day activities now for about almost 20 years. Oh my gosh, it's been like 20 years, and there are more events that take place in Connecticut than in any other state in the nation. We have this last year about 200 events will be happening on that weekend of June 4th and 5th. And we would encourage people to go to trailsday.org. We actually we bought that URL. We thought that maybe the national organization that runs it might own it, but we bought trailsday.org, and you can see a new website that we've set up there with all the different events that people can go to and choose from. Different types of events, not just all walking events, but there's paddling on the Lieutenant River, right out of Old Lyme. There's all sorts of biking events. There's even some equestrian events. So it's just a perfect time to get outdoors. Hopefully we'll have nice weather that weekend.
Yeah,
we
absolutely.
can control everything but that.
Absolutely.
But we've got wonderful volunteers leading events and a lot to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So how did Trails Day start?
Trails Day started, so we are the Connecticut affiliate of the American Hiking Society, and the American Hiking Society back in, I guess it was 1993, 94, said, you know what, we have this new idea called National Trails Day, and we would love it if our affiliates in every state did something locally. And from the very first year that the idea of Trails Day came up, CFPA has been coordinating it and making sure that there were lots of things to do. I think even in the first year of Trails Day, there was something like 90 events that we had going on in various parts of the state. And those happen because we have a lot of partnerships with a lot of different groups. As you know, there are a lot of land trusts in Connecticut, and so a number of land trusts do programs. There are a lot of municipal park and rec departments that do programs. I think there's such a love of trails in Connecticut that's helped to really sustain and bolster the event. So we look forward to it every year.
Absolutely, and I'm sure, especially during the pandemic, it was doable, but it wasn't doable because not many people wanted to get out.
You're right. So actually in 2020, the first year of the pandemic, we turned Trails Day into essentially a do-it-yourself event.
Right.
So we said, here are all the places where you can go. We're not going to ask people to host events and walk you around, because people weren't feeling safe doing that at the time. But last year, Trails Day was back again. We limited the number of attendees to 15 per event. But we still held the full number of events, and it got people outdoors to do it. And it's been, this year, we hope it's just going to be, a full-on celebration. We know that there will continue to be, concerns about COVID, rightfully so. We want to make sure it's always safe. But the outdoors and doing outdoors events has generally been the safest type of event you can do. And so we're going to keep on doing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, last time you and I were together was at an event in October, and your offices weren't open yet.
That's right.
Did you guys open yet?
We are open
okay.
for staff, but not fully to the public.
you're
You
not
know,
open to the
we
public.
have we just opened a few months ago our community room once again
Okay.
for the many organizations that use it. There are over 50 organizations before COVID were using our community meeting room for various purposes, and we're seeing that type of use start to happen again. But still, you know, because of the popularity of Zoom and all the, you know, remote ways, I know there's something that you miss with being in person with someone like, you know, we are today. But
Right.
in fact, you miss a lot. But it is such a convenient medium for people to, you know, have conversations without having to travel places that, you know, a lot of people are just having more remote meetings these days. But, you know, all these things go in waves. So we'll see a lot of people soon say, you know what, I'm done with these remote meetings. Let's make sure we meet in person.
Absolutely, yeah. Zoom meetings and remote meetings, I'm sure you know as well as I do, no fun.
Well, they are, you know, it's a necessity more than it is about the fun. But I can definitely tell you that, you know, when we talk about things as a group remotely, it's just a different feel. And I can say that, you know, the commitment that people have for each other is really reinforced when you are right there and can look someone in the eye and shake their hand.
Right.
And so, you know, I look forward to more of that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what else is CFPA up to?
Well, you know, this is also a time that we're starting to think about, you know, all of the different trail activities that are happening on the maintenance of trails side of things. So this is when we have a summer trail crew that's coming in. This is, you know, 9 people all in their young 20s. Who are going to be, you know, working for about 12 weeks with us on various projects all around the state. And, you know, part of what we see our role is not just to, you know, take care of the trails with volunteers, but also try to create some opportunities for young people to get connected to the outdoors in ways that will evolve into outdoor careers. So, you know, we'll have our summer trail crew and then a fall trail crew. There's a new trail opening that's going to be happening up in Woodstock. We have, you know, a bunch of different things. When you have a trail system that's over 800 miles and stretching across 96 different towns, there's always a lot going on.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay, I'm ready.
Out of all the state parks that they have in the state of Connecticut,
Oh no, okay.
you have a favorite?
All right, I will say this because, and I'm not going to use the cheesy excuse of like that would be like choosing between my favorite children and all that.
Yeah.
But because
Considering your son's here tonight.
exactly,
There you
because
go.
my son is here tonight, I will say that my favorite state park is Talcott Mountain State Park. Why is that? Because
Is that with the observatory?
yes, they have the, you know, high blind tower right at the top of Talcott Mountain State Park, and I remember my son when he was young. We would walk up the tower trail there, and there was a vernal pool with all these really cool, you know, salamander egg masses in them and all. And I'd say that it was one of the most amazing experiences to kind of do that with him, then get to the top and the incredible views. But all that said, Pete, I really can't choose, right?
No,
There's
no,
110
absolutely
state parks, and you know what I found to be amazing might not be what other people find to be amazing.
Absolutely.
So,
And I'm sure every state park has its own different. Someone might like the ambiance of one, and someone might like the ambiance of the other. Everybody's got their own opinion.
absolutely. I mean, you know, the state parks that get the most visitation are the shoreline parks that have beaches associated
absolutely.
with them.
Hammonasset,
everyone loves
Rocky Neck.
those beaches. But right, Hammonasset, Rocky Neck, Sherwood Island, you know, Silver Sands, you name it. But If you're not interested in being at the beach and frying on the sand,
Right.
you might want to be in a forest in one of the inland parks.
Absolutely.
And so there is something for everyone. One of the neat things about parks and forests and wildlife management areas, other public lands around Connecticut, is that because we're a relatively densely packed state and we have all these parks and forests, no resident of our state is more than a 15-minute drive from a public land that they can get to and explore outdoors. So I would encourage people, if they haven't already done it, find those places and get out and enjoy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And especially get out and enjoy now before the summer shows up.
Right, when it gets hot. It's for me, it's the shoulder seasons that I like the best, mostly because that's when there aren't as many mosquitoes and bugs that really love me for some reason.
Yeah, me too.
So yeah, spring and fall are my favorite times to be outdoors, but summer's not so bad either.
Eric Hammerling, before we say goodnight, if you want more information on the CFPA, where are they going?
Go to our website, which is ctwoodlands.org, or certainly for Trails Day, go to trailsday.org. Lots of information there, and we hope people will get involved.
Cool. Eric Hammerling from the Connecticut Forest Park Association. Thanks for some time, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Appreciate it. Look forward to that.
On behalf of Eric Hammerling, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks, good night, and we'll see you next time.